Hi everyone, I'm going to do the tailstock clamp for you now. This is another guided tutorial. This is a 3-view drawing. You have to have the front, top, and right side. The reason why, as you can see here, from the front we can see these notches, which are 1/4 of an inch tall and 1/2 of an inch wide. The entire piece is 4 3/4 wide. And we can see these angled cuts from the front. We have to draw the right side so we can see this channel, this slot cut through the object. We have to draw the top view because of the hole that we've got. So that's the reason why you need 3 views. So when we start laying out our drawings, we need our front view, which is 4 3/4 by 1 1/2. There's our overall height. Our right side will be 1 1/2 tall by 2 5/8 or 2.625 wide. So that's going this way. That's our depth. So we've got 1 1/2 tall and 2.625 deep. And then our top view will be 4.75 wide and 2.625 deep. Remember, we're going to put 1 inch between the view here and 1 inch between the views here. Okay, so let's get started. So our front view is 4.75 by 1.75. So we start with a line. We're going to come over 4.75. We're going to go up 1.5 because it's 1 1/2 tall. Then back over 4.75. Remember, I can hover or I can type in my number, whichever I prefer. So there's my front view box. Now the cutouts down here at the bottom on the front view, if we go back and look at it, they are 1/2 inch wide and 1/4 of an inch tall. So let's go back and do that. So we're going to go into line, we're going to hover. Now notice I am drawing in the object layer. I'm going to hover, I'm going to drag over. Notice I didn't click. I'm going to drag over 0.5 and let that be my first point. And then I'm going to go up 0.25. And then I'm going to come back 0.5, which gives me back to the intersection or the X. Okay, so there's that cutout on that side. I can draw the exact same thing over here, or I can use the mirror command, select these 2 lines, and hit enter and use the midpoint of this line and then come up and click again as my mirror line. And then no, I do not want to erase my source object. I want to keep it. So there's those corners. Now we can trim these out or we can use the grips, either one. If we use the grip, we would click on the line, click on the blue grip and drag up, then click on this line, click on the blue grip and drag over. Then we would hit escape. Or we can do the trim command. And remember, in the web app, all you have to do once you hit the trim command is just touch what you want to get rid of and click on them. In AutoCAD, what we have to do is we have to say trim. I'm going to use the select all down here inside the less than or greater than by hitting enter. And now anything that I pick will be trimmed out because it selected everything as a cutting edge. So there's my front view as far as my basic stuff goes so far. Now let's go back and look at our drawing again. These angled cuts here, these 30-degree angled cuts, come off of this platform. So they're down, they're located 3/4 of an inch down from the top and then rotated 30 degrees. So let's go in and do that. So I'm going to go into my line command. I'm going to hover here. I'm going to drag down, and I'm going to type in for my first point, 0.75. Now, I could draw a line at any length that I want and put in an angle. I'll show you how to do that. So let's just arbitrarily pick a distance of 2. And then I'm going to hit the tab button, and now I'm going to set my angle at 30 degrees. And there it is. So that's one way of getting that. Now I would have to trim this or stretch it back. If I hit the trim button, pick this as my cutting edge. Remember, in the web app, it's automatically everything selected. And then click this to get rid of it. So that's the way you would trim that out. Okay, so that puts that in the right place. Now the other way of doing it, sort of the old-fashioned way of doing it, if I hover here and drag down until my first point is 0.75, what we used to do is we used to draw a line out and just draw it at any length. Then we would go to rotate, highlight this as the object we want to rotate and hit enter. Then we would click on our base point, which is the point we want to rotate from, which would be here. Now we're wanting to rotate this way, so we're rotating to the right. Remember, when you rotate to the right, that's negative degrees. Clockwise, so that's going to the right, is negative degrees. Counterclockwise, we're going to the left. So if we're going this way, would be positive degrees. So I'm going to put in negative 30. If you notice, I've got the negative sign in there and hit enter. So there it is. Either way you want to draw those lines is fine. You can mirror it once you get it drawn correctly. Again, I would go into trim now and trim this out. And while I'm in trim now, I can get rid of this and this. So there's all of my object lines from my front view. I'm done with that, okay? Now, the next thing I need to do is start my right side. I need to be an inch off of this edge here because that's my furthest edge out. So I can start a line. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to hover here, and I'm going to hover here. I'm going to come across. And see, that says that's where I want my first point. No, not really. So by doing this, the best thing to do in a case like this would probably be to use the offset. Tell it your distance of 1 inch. Offset that 1 inch. That way it's 1 inch away. Now I can hover here, drag across, come up here and hover and drag down. There's my point. Okay, and this object was 2 5/8 deep. Now I'm going to type in 2.625 for 2 5/8. Okay, now I can take this line and bring it on down to where it needs to be. Okay, so there it is. Now this line needs to be the same height this line is. So again, I can take this line by the blue grip, drag up, come up here and hover over this point, and come across, and now that line is the right length. I need the very same line on the other end, so I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to copy it using that base point, the end of the line, to there. Okay? Now, there's my start of my shape. I could go ahead and draw my box. Remember, you're supposed to always start with a box, but a lot of people will just draw the basic shape. Okay? So I could start with this and then trim out what I don't need. This is usually the easiest way to learn how to do this. So let's go back and look at our dimensions again. So when we click, what we've got here now, we've got this platform, which is 3/4 of an inch down from the top, and then we've got this notch here. So we're going to see a rectangle all the way across the bottom, another rectangle here, then 2 rectangles going up representing these sloped surfaces. So let's go in and see what we've got with that. So I go in my first line, if I hover here, drag across and click, and then drag across, there is that line. Okay. Now I've got another line. If I hover at this point, drag across, and you need to be careful here because it's wanting to go to the center point. You might want to do this so you don't accidentally grab the wrong point. Is just click here and let's drag straight across and make it extra long just to be safe. Now we can go to trim and hit enter and trim this out and trim this out. Now we know we've got it at the right location. If we go back and look at our object again, these pieces are 0.438 wide. 0.438. It's actually 0.4375, but we will use the numbers that Dave gave us here so we can do it and get it easy as far as for your drawing. So I'm going to say line. I'm going to hover here at this point, drag across, and type in my first point is 0.438 away from that corner, and then come down. There it is. Now I'm going to mirror that line, hit enter, use the midpoint of any of these lines, but this one's fine. Drag straight down, click. No, I do not want to get rid of my source objects. Now that's in the right place. I'm going to use the trim command, and I'm going to get rid of the part in the middle. So there are my object lines, my visible lines in my right side view. My top view, again, offset 1 inch, up 1 inch. And then my line, I want it to start, my box is going to be here. I'm going to hover here and here and click there. And again, we're doing depth just like we did in the right side, 2.625. So there's that line. Now let's extend this over to the edge. Okay, there we go. And then I've got another line here. So I'm going to start it here. I'm going to hover and I'm going to hover and give it my first point. Click, there it is. And again, 2.625. Okay. Take this line all the way back, and now I'm going to take this line and stretch it out to here. Okay, so there's where my top view is going to set. Now, remember, we can use the miter line that we talked about if we've got a construction line drawn. And I don't have a construction layer here, so I'm going to create a layer again to show you how to create a layer. If you go in, click on New Layer. I'm going to call it Construction. You don't have to do this. You could actually use the layer you're in, but I'm just doing this so you can see it a little bit better because I want it to show up. So I'm going to hit OK. Okay, you do not have to create this layer to do this. You can do it in the very layer you're drawing in. So I'm going to go Line. I'm going to click on the end point of this line. Click on the end point of this line because the back of the top view and the back of the right side are my outside edges. So this edge is the back of the object, this edge is the back of the object. Now I've got me two lines there. And again, I would have these on my construction layer if they were mine. You can do them on the object layer, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to draw me another line here, and it's going to be at 45 degrees. Okay? And again, I'll put this on the construction layer just so you can see it. Okay, so now, if you notice, this edge goes to here and hits the 45 and comes down. Notice this. This edge goes up, hits the 45, and look, it hits right there. So this depth is the same as this depth. So by doing that, I can go line, click, drag up, hit there, drag all the way across, because this goes all the way across. Do the very same thing for this edge. Click, come up till I intersect, drag across. So there are those two upright pieces. What am I talking about? These two pieces here that's standing up, that whole section there. Okay? And then, of course, I can either trim or I can drag these over and get them in the right place. Okay, so there's that. That's what you've got to do. That makes it really easy to do that. We're going to leave this miter line here for a minute because we're going to be able to use it here in a minute. I will delete these lines just so they don't get in our way. So now the next thing we need to do is the tops of those angled pieces. Well, I'll go to line, hover here, drag up and click, drag up and click. There's that one. Now, I can do this a couple of ways. I can either mirror it, I can draw it, or I can copy it. I'm just going to draw it this time. Click and click. There it is. Pretty simple. This time I will copy. I'm going to go to copy, and I'm going to copy both those lines. I'm going to use the end of this as my base point. I'm going to go to here because they're the same width, and there's those. So there's my slope, there's my slope, there's my slope, there's my slope. And that point lines up with that and that. Okay? So that takes care of that. Now the only thing we've got left to do is put the hole in this object as far as being visible. So the center of this hole, if we go back and look, 2 3/8 in, and from the inside edge of the upright, it's 0.875 or 7/8. So it's 2 3/8, 3.375 in, and 7/8 in from the inside edge of the upright. So let's go do that. So I'm going to take a line, and I'm going to hover over my midpoint here, and I'm going to drag down, and I'm going to say 0.875 or 7/8. Okay, ooh, I accidentally hit the undo button. So let's do it again. Click, drag down, 0.875 and hit enter. Okay, now remember, it's supposed to be 2 7/8 in. I'm sorry, 2 3/8, my fault, 2 3/8 in. I think that's where it's at, but I'm going to use my measure tool just to be sure. I'm going to click here, I'm going to click here, and it says 2.73. The reason why we're getting that is because of the distance that we drew originally. So we're good here, okay? We're going to leave it where it's at. So now let's go to diameter. That hole is 3/4 of an inch. Sorry about that, I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so there's my center point. Drag out, say 0.75. There we go, okay? Now we need a center line for this hole. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to do this because of what happens in the web app browser. We could do it using grips in just regular AutoCAD, but I'm going to do an offset of 0.25. And I'm going to offset this circle 0.25. Now I'm going to change to my center layer. And I'm going to draw a line from quadrant to quadrant. And it's just as easy to do it this way, or I can mirror it quadrant to quadrant there. So there's my center line. Now I can get rid of that circle. So there's that circle drawn. Now I need hidden lines. So let's go draw hidden lines. When I go to hidden, make my hidden line, now I'm going to go to line. We can't see this notch in the top view, so I'm going to hover here. I'm going to drag up and click and drag all the way to the back. There's that slot represented in the top view. And I have to do the exact same thing over on this side. Okay, so that's represented. We're good there. Now we can't see this platform in the front view. So it goes from corner to corner. There's that. So we're good there. Now we can't see the hole in the front view or the right side. So let's go to line, hover over the quadrant, drag down, and remember it starts here at the top of the platform and goes to the bottom. And then we've got another one that shows the other quadrant of the circle, here to here. Okay, so that's how we would get that there. Now we need our center line to show that this is a circular feature, and you would only put one vertical center line. Now notice what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use that offset command again because, like I said, in the web app, it's the easiest way to get it. Okay, I'm going to go to line, center of that line, which is where I'm at up above, down to there. That's where it goes. And notice that line is on the hidden layer. In the web app, all you have to do is click on the line, go to properties, and change it. And that'll put it on the proper layer. Let me get my properties up here. So if I click on my properties box and open it, if you notice, this is sort of what you see in the web app. A lot of times we don't have this open in AutoCAD, but it's a good thing to have open. So if we look here, look, my layer's hidden. If I click right here, and this is how you would do it in the web app, I can drop down and say change that to center. Okay, and that would take care of it. And I'm going to hit escape. We can hide this by hitting the little box here, and it'll still be there, see? And then when I touch it, it flies open. Okay? So there's that for us. Now we need this whole configuration here in the middle of this. Now the proper way to put that in its location is we would draw a line from the quadrant over. And again, you may want to draw it a little bit long because it's wanting to snap to the midpoint. And then we want to do a line from the intersection. Let's zoom in here. See what it's wanting to do? There's the midpoint of that angled line. What we're after is that intersection. And we would draw it down to there. Okay? And then we could grab the grip and drag it down to here, and that would put it in the right place. We could do the very same thing for the center line and the other edge of the hole. The other way of doing it, I'm going to show you a way to cheat. Because we know that this hole is dead center left to right here, and it's dead center left to right in this view, I can actually use my copy command, copy those three lines, and I'm going to use the midpoint of that line there. That's the bottom line midpoint, and I'm going to go to the midpoint of this line. And it will put it exactly in the right place. Now I could check it back to this, and it should be right. All of these lines now can go away just by deleting. Okay? So there, let's zoom in so we can see it. There is the three views of this object, and it's the right size. And every line is on the correct layer. We've got 1 inch between the views. That's measured from here to here. That's measured from here to here. Okay? So everything lines up the way it should be. Notice our orientation. The top view, which is width, going this way, is directly above the top of the front view. It's from here to here. The right side is immediately to the right of the front view, and it lines up. Everything which is a height will be a height in both views. So I hope this helps. Hope it makes a difference. And this should make it a little bit easier for you drawing multi-views. And this one, of course, is a 3-view multi-view. Have a great day.